How's your heart today? Some kinds of love are so steady that we mistake them for ordinary life. We grow up inside them, breathe them every day, and only later realize how much they were holding together for us. Tonight's letters are for the people who looked back and finally saw their mother's love in small things they once ignored. Packed lunches, folded laundry, lights left on, questions that sounded repetitive until distance made them tender. If that kind of memory has been walking beside you lately, maybe this episode will help you sit with it more gently. Let's begin with the first letter. I used to think my mother was just careful. Careful with money, with food, with weather, with timing, with whether I had eaten before leaving the house. I thought she worried too much. I thought love was supposed to feel bigger than reminders and routines. When I was in high school, she used to wait up for me even when I told her not to. I would come home from tutoring and see the kitchen lights still on. She would be sitting there with tea that had already gone cold, asking if I wanted fruit, or pretending she had only just woken up. Sometimes she said nothing. She just looked at my face for 1 second, like she was checking whether the day had been kind. Back then, I found it suffocating. What I did not notice was everything she finished quietly after I went upstairs. She unplugged the rice cooker, covered the side dishes, folded the towel I left on the chair, and placed my school shirt near the fan if it was still damp. Her love was always completing things after I had already walked away. When I moved out for work, I acted like I had been waiting for freedom forever. I called when I remembered. I replied to her messages with busy today, or I ate already. She never complained. She just kept sending practical things. A weather warning, a photo of soup, a reminder that the medicine was in the side pocket of my bag. I once laughed about that bag at work. She had packed it like I was crossing a mountain instead of commuting to an office. Tissues, wet wipes, painkillers, a tiny sewing kit, and an extra pair of socks. Then one rainy night I missed my bus, walked half an hour in soaked shoes, and reached into the bag without thinking. The socks were there, still rolled neatly together. I changed under a stairwell, and for some reason I had to blink hard. Even then, I still didn't fully understand. It happened later, during one weekend visit home. My old room was exactly the same, only cleaner than I had ever kept it. The blanket was washed. The desk had been dusted. My winter jacket hung in the closet with one button resewn. I asked my mother why she still cared for the room like I was coming back every Monday. She said, "A room gets lonely too if nobody opens the window." I smiled, but that line stayed with me. A year later, she had a minor surgery. I stayed with her for a few days after, and for the first time I saw the house from her side instead of mine. I saw how many invisible tasks made comfort possible. The fruit cut before anyone asked. The beans soaked early because my father liked them soft. The porch light turned on before sunset because it feels nicer when people come home. The bills remembered. The towels rotated. The medicine schedules kept in her head without ever being called work. One afternoon, while she was resting, I folded laundry and realized I did not know where half of it belonged. That was the moment. Not some dramatic revelation. Just me standing there with one of my father's undershirts, suddenly overwhelmed by how many years my mother had loved us through placement, timing, and attention. Through remembering, through preventing discomfort before it arrived. I had spent so long looking for love in language that I missed it in maintenance. Now when I visit, I notice everything. The way she pushes the better piece of fish toward my side of the table. The way she says, "Take this container too." Like refusing would be ridiculous. The way she waits by the door after I leave, pretending she is not watching for the elevator to close. Mom, I used to think love had to announce itself to count. I did not understand that yours was busy keeping the house warm, the shirts dry, the fruit cut, and a pair of extra socks ready for the day. I finally needed them. The older I get, the more clearly I see that I was never overlooked. I was simply loved in ways too constant to notice. You loved me so quietly that I mistook it for how life naturally worked. Sometimes the deepest care is the kind that makes itself look ordinary. The first kind of heartbreak is loss. The second is realizing how much was given before you knew how to name it. Here is the next letter. The first time I understood my mother was lonely, I was already old enough to have noticed years earlier. I was 28, engaged, and busy in all the ways people praise. My mother and I still spoke often enough to look close from the outside, but most of our conversations had become efficient. Did you eat? How is work? How is your fiancé? Don't forget your aunt's birthday. Okay, sleep early. I told myself that was adulthood. Then wedding planning began, and I leaned on her constantly. I called to ask how many dishes were polite for the family dinner. I sent photos of shoes and curtains. I asked opinions I could have formed myself. She answered every time. If I forgot to ask about her day, she never made me feel it. One night, after a small fight with my fiancé, I drove to my parents' apartment. My mother opened the door before I knocked because she had heard the elevator. She reheated soup, tied her hair up again like she was starting a second shift, and listened while I cried over future shape stress. At one point I noticed she was wearing the same gray cardigan she had worn for years. I asked why she never bought a new one. She laughed and said, "This one still knows me." At the time, I smiled and kept talking about myself. After the wedding, life sped up, work got heavier. Marriage filled itself with bills, grocery lists, and tired evenings. My mother kept showing up in useful ways. She mailed me the spice mix I liked. She dropped off food when she just happened to be nearby. She remembered the date of my performance review better than I did, and still, I treated her care like background music. Then my father retired. I visited one afternoon and found the apartment strangely quiet. My father had gone out, and my mother was sitting alone at the dining table peeling peas into a metal bowl. No television, no music. Just that soft dry sound of peas dropping one by one. I asked what she was doing. She said, "Nothing much. Just preparing early." There was no sadness in her voice, which somehow made it worse. I looked around and realized the apartment held evidence of her everywhere, but very little of her own life in plain sight. Family photos, practical lists, containers stacked neatly, laundry half folded. But where were the hobbies she once mentioned? The places she wanted to go? The part of the day that belonged only to her? I asked, too casually, "Do you get bored at home now?" She shrugged and said, "A little. But there is always something to do." That sentence stayed in me for days, because I knew that language. The way women answer around themselves. The way they make sacrifice sound like preference. So no one has to feel guilty. That night I scrolled through years of our messages. Most of them were from her. Weather reminders, recipes, "Did you get home? Take a scarf. Call me when you can." There was so much reaching from her side, and so much efficient love from mine. I began remembering things differently. How she waited outside school with a bottle of water wrapped in a towel to keep it cool. How she learned to use my favorite coffee app just to send me a drink during a hard week. How every visit ended with, "Message me when you arrive," as if the drive home were a voyage. The hardest part is that nothing terrible happened. She was not cruelly neglected. I was not an unloving daughter. We were simply living inside a pattern that made her devotion feel normal and my gratitude feel postponable. So I started calling without needing something. At first it felt unfamiliar. I asked what she ate for lunch. I asked what show she was watching. I asked what she used to enjoy before life became mostly responsibility. Slowly, she answered with more than the practical minimum. She told me she missed train trips. She said she always wanted to learn flower arranging properly. She admitted the afternoons were sometimes too quiet. A month later, I bought her a new cardigan. Same gray. Soft, simple, nothing dramatic. She touched the sleeve and said, "This looks like something I would choose." I almost cried in the store. "Mom, I am sorry it took me so long to see that you were not just taking care of life. You were giving your own life to the shape of ours, one ordinary day at a time. I came to you whenever I needed comfort. But I did not ask often enough what comfort looked like for you. I let your steadiness hide you. I let your competence make me forget you were also a woman with private tiredness and private afternoons. Thank you for never making me pay interest on delayed tenderness." Some people do not speak love loudly. They keep the soup warm, the phone close, and the door unlocked. Sometimes we only hear that kind of love when the house gets quiet enough. Love can sound like advice for years, until one day, you hear the longing underneath the care. Here is the last letter tonight. I used to think my mother and I were simply very different people. She liked routine. I liked speed. She kept old containers because they might still be useful. I threw things away the second they stopped fitting my life. She answered messages quickly. I replied in batches. She asked if I had eaten, and I heard criticism. She suggested I sleep earlier, and I heard control. The truth is, I loved her. I just loved her like someone who assumed there would always be more time. In my 30s, I became the busiest version of myself. Work filled every corner. I forgot birthdays until calendar alerts saved me. During that season, my mother became someone I updated rather than someone I really spoke to. Then one winter, I got sick. Nothing serious. Just a flu bad enough to flatten me for a few days and make my apartment feel colder than usual. She called while I was half asleep, heard my voice, and knew immediately. 2 hours later, she was at my door. She came with a tote bag full of plain food, medicine, pears, a thermos, and the old habit of taking over a room without making it feel invaded. She opened the curtains halfway, because she knows I hate too much brightness when I feel awful. She changed my pillowcase. She checked my fridge without announcing it. She placed a trash bag by the bed so tissues would not pile up. She charged my phone because I had forgotten it at 6%. At one point I apologized for the mess. She said, "You are sick, not failing." I do not know why that line opened something in me, but it did. Maybe because I had been speaking to myself like a disappointed manager for years. Maybe because I was tired of earning rest only after collapse. Maybe because mothers sometimes say one simple sentence and it reaches a wound you did not know had a name. She slept on my couch that night. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up and saw the hallway light under the door. She was still awake, rinsing the cup I had used for medicine. That old childhood feeling came back to me at once. A mother awake in the quiet, making tomorrow easier before anyone else opened their eyes. After I recovered, life resumed. But something had shifted. I started noticing how often her love had arrived not as advice, but as relief. She was always reducing friction, removing one small burden, filling one gap before I felt the inconvenience of it. I thought about the years she packed sliced apples with salt so they would not brown before lunch. The times she left money in a book instead of handing it to me directly so I would not refuse. The way she learned which silence meant I needed company and which silence meant I needed space. And then came the part that hurt most. I realized I had inherited her in secret. I saw it one evening when a friend came over exhausted from work, and I automatically put water on to boil, cleared a chair, and packed leftovers for her to take home before she asked. My hands knew what care looked like, because my mother had repeated it in front of me for decades. All those gestures I once called ordinary had become part of my own instincts. That is when I understood something I wish I had understood sooner. Love does not only comfort us, it trains us. Quiet love becomes muscle memory. I called my mother that night and nearly told her everything. Nearly. Instead, I asked what she was doing. She said she was folding towels. Of course she was. We talked about simple things, a neighbor's noisy renovation, a cousin's new baby, whether mangoes were sweeter this season. What I wanted to say was this: Mom, I am only now understanding how much of my softness came from being handled gently by you. Even when I was impatient, even when I mistook your attention for interference, you kept loving me in durable ways. You fed me, but you also taught me how to feed others. You looked after me, but you also showed me what looking after someone actually means. Not dramatic rescue, just returning, noticing, preparing, remembering, and staying. I used to think maturity meant becoming less dependent on a mother's love. Now I think part of maturity is finally recognizing it and carrying it forward on purpose. The older I become, the more often I catch myself loving people in your accent. Maybe that is one of the quiet miracles of being loved well. Years later, When no one is making a speech and nothing looks important from the outside, you reach for someone else with the same gentle hands that once reached for you. If tonight stirred something tender in you, maybe there is still love inside your memory asking to be named. Maybe someone cared for you in ways so constant, you mistook them for background noise. And maybe it is not too late to notice. If one of these letters felt like a room in your own life, stay with that feeling for a moment. Sometimes seeing quiet love clearly is already a way of saying thank you.